Welcome to Garden Plants with Jim Putnam. Let's talk Apricot Echo Osmanthus. Apricot Echo Osmanthus is an evergreen shrub with really nice, shiny, dark green foliage. As it matures, it actually leaves out with almost burgundy new growth. Here we are in October, and it's actually got a little bit of new growth on it now. But it's got this burgundy new growth, which then becomes kind of a light green, and then ultimately ages to a dark green foliage. This one's noted for orange flowers, which I'll talk more about in a minute. It can get, be maintained somewhere probably between 8 and 10 feet in height, but if you just let it go, it's probably going to get more than 15 over time. Pretty fast growth rate so far, but everything about this plant that I have in the ground is not necessarily what you would see if you put it in more sun. This one's in a little bit too much shade, and so it stretched quite a bit. It was only about less than 24 inches tall 24 months ago, and now I'm 6 feet tall, and you can see it's 7.5, at least 7.5 feet tall at this point. So it's stretching for the light a little bit. That's affecting the flower color, affecting the growth habit somewhat, but in the full sun, it would grow very compact, very little maintenance to do on it, and grow moderately fast, maybe adding a foot a year, something like that. This one's added more than 2 feet a year because it's stretching for the light. Eventually it's going to find it up above me where it's sitting. Apricot Echo, like other Osmanthus, is going to flower in cooler parts of the year. So this one will start flowering. This one actually started flowering in late September, and it will flower on and off right through the winter. In the coldest part of the winter here in Zone 7, it'll definitely stop, but it'll pick right back up as soon as we get some slightly warmer nights going into spring. These can flower again from October basically until April, even into May sometimes if it stays cool for that long. Apricot Echo has bright orange small clusters of flowers that are extremely fragrant here in the shade. And again, this is kind of the theme of my plant, is that it's in a little bit too much shade, and so the flowers are a little bit pale. The coloration on them, they're much brighter in more sun. Osmanthus is one of those plants that you have to kind of, you smell it before you see the flowers on it. The flowers can be insignificant little clusters like this, although they'd have a few more in the sun. But normally you're smelling it and then you go investigate what the plant is. You know it's an Osmanthus because it has a very distinct fragrant smell, and it's one of my absolute favorites. I'm not a big fragrant flower fan, but Osmanthus I definitely am. It's just got the perfect fragrance to it. They're hardy in zones 7 to 9. I've seen occasionally where people will put them in zone 10. I always wonder if they get enough cool nights in the wintertime to actually get very many flowers down in zone 10. But maybe, definitely in zone 7 to 9, we when we go into fall and early spring, those cool nights, shorter days, that's what triggers the flowering on these. Apricot Echo will make a fantastic screening plant, and that's what we're using it for here. Our neighbors, we're on a small lot in Raleigh, North Carolina, urban area, and the houses are very close together. And so just in 2 years, very quickly, this is becoming part of a living wall that we've planted right beside our neighbors here. These would make great just individual specimen plants, to be kind of the centerpiece of a bed and have smaller things coming, planted down and away from them. And that's kind of what we've done here. It's kind of, it's in the back, and other lower things have been planted around it, annuals, perennials, fall blooming things, because we're right here in the fall. You can see how much color is still here. Great plant on the corner of a foundation. If you have a sunny side of your foundation and you just want something to grow, just like this, right on the side of it and get some height. Great near a living area. So if you're, for us, the screen porch is right behind the camera. So when it's in flower, we can smell it. If you have a patio, that kind of thing. So keeping it kind of close to you so that you can enjoy the fragrance during its very long bloom time. So Osmanthus in general are just not that picky when we're planting them. They don't particularly like wet feet, and so I would avoid an area that stays wet in between rains and waterings. But as long as it's a well-drained space, they're pretty tolerant of whatever type of soil you have. We have a clay-based soil here, and so I mound everything up just a bit when I'm planting them. They are acid-loving plants, so pH below 7 is kind of ideal, and that will keep your best, really best dark green foliage on them. While they're growing, you won't see any of that iron deficiency that you might see in a high pH soil. These are very drought tolerant once they're established. Like anything else, when you're putting it in the ground, we're going to have to monitor it. Osmanthus are one of those plants that are very good at telling us they're dry. They'll actually wilt a little bit. Some other things, will just start losing leaves, but these are actually pretty good about letting you know they're dry. When you water it, just drown the space thoroughly and then let it dry out between rains and watering. We want it to go in search of water and not just baby it. I've dug plants out of the ground 2 and 3 years later where they've been on irrigation systems and they've never been allowed to dry out, and you can just pull the plant out just like it went into the ground. So that drying process will help this thing actually get anchored out into the surrounding soil. And then once it is rooted out, that's when we'll see this faster growth on it. Osmanthus is extremely heat tolerant. One note on placement in the landscape is, especially in zone 7, is to not have it out in the winter wind. And so if this was just a big open space right here, it probably would not be ideal in the colder areas for this plant, because if that wind just beats up on it all winter long, it can get some winter burn on it. Another thing about growing them in zone 7 is I'd probably spring plant them. That way they have a whole season under their belt before they go into the winter. Pruning on Osmanthus can be done after the spring flowering. And you can prune this thing about as hard as you'd ever want to prune it. It will naturally, over time, limit itself up into a small tree. So you'll start to lose some of the foliage down at the bottom as, over time. You can reset that by pruning it hard from the top at some point if you want to. You don't have to. You can just let it take its natural form and do what it wants to do. Here in this shady space where it's stretching a bit, I'll probably end up doing a little more pruning on it just to try to get it fuller, slightly fuller down here at the bottom. I fertilize all my trees and shrubs in the late winter, early spring with a slow release fertilizer, a slow release organic fertilizer once a year, and that's it. I keep the area mulched. If it gets extremely dry, I'll water it, but now that it's pretty much established itself in the ground, I don't think it'll need a whole lot of ongoing watering because we get regular rainfall here in Raleigh, North Carolina. And that's pretty much it. They're very pest resistant, just an easy low care shrub that happens to bloom when almost nothing else is blooming with incredibly fragrant flowers. So this is Apricot Echo Osmanthus. Thanks for watching.